In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Ableton Live Lite for the very first time. I'll be showing you how to create a track that sounds like this. And for a limited time only, you can get Ableton Live Lite for free with a new Splice subscription. Be sure to sign up before the offer ends. We'll have all the sounds used in this tutorial in the description, as well as an Ableton Live project file so you can follow along at home. So there are many ways you can start a track. You can play a virtual instrument in or record a real one, maybe even record that melody you've been humming in your head. For this walkthrough, I want to start with samples, but we're going to add in all those elements. To start this idea, I'm going to use a new feature on Splice called Create. This will help us find our starting sounds and jumpstart the creation process. So we can pick a style. I'm going to try soulful beats, and this is going to use AI to match sounds across the library and time stretch them and transpose them together. Now I do like this drum. If you want to switch out any of the layers, you can hit the shuffle icon. Kind of a darker vibe. I'm going to try to go delete all these layers and put in new chords. That sounds very nice as a layer. I think adding just a string layer might sound nice. Very cool. This ARP layer is very cool. It says melodic loop sprays. I think this is great to start an idea, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. We'll use the name generator, Lush Friend. I like that. And once you save the stack, you can export as stems. But in this case, I want to export as an Ableton Live session so we can get up and running right away. Once you get the zip file, you'll see a folder in your downloads directory. Open the .als file, and you're going to see your project open like this. Now, if you don't want to use the Splice Create to find your sounds and you just want to drop in your own sounds, go into a new project. Ableton's going to open in the same UI page, which is called the session view, where we see all of these tracks in vertical columns. So as I click through these, this is actually a group of tracks, as you can see by this little icon. And then I have the drums track, chords, strings, guitar. I can click through them. And on the right-hand side, I have a master track. So the first keyboard command you need to know is spacebar. That'll just play back, and spacebar will also stop. We can use the transport bar up here at the top to do the same type of controls. Now let's see what happens if we hit record. It's going to count in. But what is it actually recording? If you hit tab on the keyboard, that's a very important keyboard command that switches between your session view and your arrangement view. And this actually recorded a little bit into our arrangement. And if I open these tracks up by using these little triangles, I can see the waveforms laid out on the arrangement. The arrangement view is very similar to most DAWs. All DAWs have an arrangement view. This is a timeline-based view. This is where we have our timeline at the bottom, our measure numbers at the top. Another very important keyboard command, Command Z. So I'm going to undo that, and you can see it's now blank. Now, if I hit stop here in the arrangement view, it's blank. I'm hearing music, but I'm not seeing anything on the timeline. And that's because Ableton Live So I'm hearing all those tracks play back, but I don't see any clips on the timeline, and those boxes here are called clips. So what's up with that? This is because Ableton is playing this session view over the arrangement view, and you can tell this by looking on the UI right on the right-hand side where the arrangement meets the track headers. There's a little icon, and this will actually go back. If I want to hear what's going on this track as it is, there are no drums here. There's no chords here. Or if you want to go back to the arrangement all at once, it's this orange icon at the top. So my arrangement has nothing. I'm hearing nothing. That's a pretty important thing to get down in Ableton Live. So I'm going to hit tab back to the session view. You can always click on these icons if you don't want to use the keyboard command. In the session view, if I want to cue these tracks, I can hit this master icon. This little master track is what we call the first scene, and a scene is all the clips in a horizontal row. So maybe we could call this intro. But actually this is not really an intro. This is kind of more of the full idea. It doesn't have any bass or main melody, but what we can do is we can use Option Drag, which is a very powerful keyboard command, to move these clips as many times as we want. So I'm gonna use Option Drag. And so actually I'm gonna take away and use Delete on your keyboard to remove clips. And as you can see at the bottom here, there's the waveform. If you want to see which, this is the drums. You can kind of tell with the peaks in the audio, those are transients. This is the chords. So I'm going to actually start with chords, have the drums come in later. This is just a simple additive arrangement. I'm holding Option, and maybe chords, and that cool ARP melody comes in next, and then the drum layer. So everything is layered in, one little scene at a time, as you can see. And if I go to the scenes now, scene 1, now, this is where Ableton Live really shines. This is meant for live performance. Scene 1 will keep looping until I hit stop or until I cue a new scene. So this will just keep going. Now it feels good to kind of cue it next. As you can see, I can stop an icon singularly there. Maybe kind of switch it up. You can also collapse the group and cue all the tracks in that group at once. Now, one of the most important things if you get lost in the UI is using Shift ? Or this little triangle at the very bottom. This is the info view window. And if I hover over any kind of icon, it will tell me in the info view what this icon does. Utilize that info view. It's your best friend when you're learning this DAW. So we've got some sounds here. It's a basic idea, but I want to start customizing it to be my own. I also want to get in the arrangement views. So there are two ways you can get clips from the session view into the arrangement view. You can do what we did at the beginning, which was hit record, and whatever's playing here will be recorded into your arrangement. So record. Notice that no tracks are queued up to play. So we're going to hit record. And I'm going to hit tab. Nothing's recording in because no tracks are playing. Now I'm going to hit the scene on master. And it's going to wait till the clean measure start. Hit tab again. Tab switches back. I'm going to go through them faster. So you can see that. And then bring in the drums. Now I use Shift, mouse wheel to scroll left and right. You can use your trackpad to kind of go left and right. You can also use this overview at the very top. This will go left and right, and if you drag up and down, it zooms in and out. There is also a keyboard command for zooming. It's plus and minus, but I personally use command scroll wheel. That's the easiest for me. So Shift scroll wheel over, command scroll wheel in, and then let's go ahead, play back. I'm gonna click the arrangement locator in the arrangement. This is the blue line here. This is where we're gonna hear playback. So if I stop it, whoa, wait. Why again? Why are we hearing everything? Notice the UI is grayed out. We went over this. It's just going to be boom. Going back to the arrangement. Minus zoom out in this case. Now this is kind of sloppy. I'm not going to do it this way. You can highlight all of this and just delete if you want. To highlight, you just click and drag in the timeline. It's really easy in Ableton. So let's go to the second way you can move clips from the session view to the timeline, which is just more of a manual way. And that is just holding on the clip title bar, click and hold, then hit tab, and you can just move it wherever you want. So in this case, I want the drums coming in maybe at measure 9. So I'll just put them there. The chords we said at the very beginning. A very powerful keyboard command you should know is Command D for duplicate or Control D on PC. And that'll just duplicate out the clips. Hit tab. For the strings, we can put them there, maybe here. And then for the guitar, we're going to put them here. Command D, Command D. So we're building out an arrangement, Command D, Command D, Command D, Command D. All right, but we're gonna want to add in our own sounds in a second. If I want to expand a track, you can use Option scroll wheel, and I can zoom in, Command scroll wheel. So I can really get in here and customize this fade meticulously. And you know, a very cool keyboard command is R for reverse. That'll reverse a clip, so I'm just gonna reverse it. And that's cool. If you kind of just shorten it and have this little reverse, is a cool transition. Crossfade between. I actually don't want the guitar right away. Zoom out. In fact, let's start chopping this up a little bit more so it's a little more interesting. I'm gonna plus. To chop up audio is very easy in Ableton. You just highlight any of the section and you can just delete and it'll delete from the clip. So if I want to delete all of this here, maybe like a little break in time. And it's cool if we maybe see the kick transient right there, delete right here, add a little fade so it's nice. Let's customize this loop a little bit more by chopping it up. So that's a kick right there. I can solo a track by hitting S over here, or S on the keyboard. Now, S on my keyboard is not working right now, and that's because I have this little keyboard icon at the very top. But that allows you to play software instruments with your QWERTY keyboard. So S on the track solos it. So I know like this is a nice transient. I can hold Command to get off of the grid a little bit. Hold Command to snap off the grid a little bit. And then I'm gonna use Option and get another kick in there. So just a little change of the pattern. I like that. So I'm gonna zoom out. And to duplicate this little region, you know, if I duplicate it over, notice it'll merge with the tracks. It's not necessarily what I want. So the best thing to do is highlight, select, delete, then select, Command D, Command D, Command D. So now we already talked about track groups, but you can actually have groups within groups, as many as you want. A crazy Russian nesting doll scenario, basically. So if we shift select the tracks we want, so in this case, I just want the chords and strings to be selected. I'm gonna Command G. That'll actually make a group there. So I can collapse this group. I'm gonna rename Command R Harmony. On this group of tracks, we can now go into our library on the left in Ableton. We haven't really gone over this, but this is where we're gonna find more sounds, instruments, and effects. And I'm gonna actually add an effect. So go to Audio Effects. We're gonna add in, you know, I think a very fun one for this would be filters, like just adding in an auto filter and putting that, just drag and drop. There's presets here below it, but I'm just gonna get the default instance, and that's gonna drag and drop it onto the group. And once you've done so, you'll see it right here. This is what we call a device in Ableton Live, and that you can select at the very top, and then there's some parameters to change. But what we're gonna change is this filter cutoff frequency, which is the frequency here, and the resonance is the XY pad. Now that's cool. I kind of like that movement. That sounds really cool to me, and it's definitely different than what we started with, so I kind of like that. Now to record that motion, that's called automation. Record this in real time by literally just hitting this icon, this record icon. As long as this is enabled, this automation button will record any movement as automation. Notice the red dots on the parameters. You can hit A for automation to view it. If you don't remember that keyboard command, it's simply this little icon at the top above all the track headers. Once you see that, I can see where I got a little wild here. I can actually just delete that automation and highlight, select, just do this automation bunch. Command D, Command D. Now that's just the resonance. There are two parameters being automated, the resonance, and now as soon as I single click here, the frequency. The frequency got a little wild here too. I'm gonna do this and highlight this Command D. And then the other thing I wanna point out is now watch this. what happens when I move all these knobs and it contradicts what I've told the computer via automation. And that's what happens here. The automation is kind of whited out, and you can see this back to automation, re-enable automation, as the info view says. And so this is going to allow you to go back to automation. Now, if I didn't do that, if I did this again, it's just going to stay down where I have it. It's going to ignore all this data I've put in and just do what I've told it to do down there. Re-enable it. So I'm going to get out of automation mode, hit A, and I'm going to collapse this guitar track. Let's go at the very top and increase the BPM a little bit. The beats per minute is the tempo, the speed of the music, and that's at the very top. That's very important to know. Yeah, I think it sits a little nicer at the higher 80s. And I'm gonna make the drums a little louder by going to the track volume mixer panel. So if I wanna, hide any of these elements, you can use these icons here, and that's the mixer panel right here. You can also use Command Option M. That will hide elements, like Command Option B will hide the browser, Command Option M will hide the mixer. Let's take the drum level up. So that's this little -6 decibels, and we're gonna take it up a little bit higher so the balance is a little more punchy. So let's add in a bass element. To do that, we're gonna add in a new instrument. So let's go to the instrument track, and we can use Drift, which is a synthesizer built into Ableton Live Lite. We're gonna go ahead, put this into a new track. So this instrument is a synthesizer, and we can actually use our QWERTY keyboard to play it. I'm actually gonna use this little icon at the very top to turn it on. So now if I hit A on my QWERTY keyboard, it's actually playing the note C on the piano keyboard. It's kind of cool to use your keyboard for simple lines. I'm gonna use Z on my keyboard to go octave down. So that changes octave, X goes octave up. And for the oscillator type, this is right here. This is what's generating the sound. Let's go to something that's a little smoother, maybe like a square. And then take the filter down. And now to figure out the bass notes that go along with the chords can be a little challenge. In the full suite version of Ableton Live, I love right-clicking on a track and saying convert harmony to MIDI. That way you can see the MIDI notes, but that doesn't always work well, and there's a more manual way which we can do in the Lite version. The technique is you can use a filter on the track and look for the bass notes of the chord. Now you can filter on only the low notes, then add a tuner. So C sharp, F sharp. So I'm definitely getting C sharp and F sharp in there. Let me go to my keyboard now on the Drift instance, which I'll select track 7. To make sure you're playing the instrument track that you want, you use these little icons on the right, and that'll actually allow you to arm the track you want to play. Easier to hear bass lines higher, so octave up. That's F sharp, that's C sharp. And it feels like, this just feels like home bass, so that, in my mind, E flat is the key signature. I'm hitting E on my keyboard. So let me put in a MIDI clip so we can see how to do this another way. So I'm gonna double click, and that puts in a little MIDI clip as the grid is set. And that's not useful right now because that's so small of a clip. So I'm gonna Command Z. Now to change the grid size in Ableton, it's very useful to know if you can right click and change the grid right here, but this is my favorite feature is Command 1 and 2 change the grid, making it smaller, so a little tinier grid versus a larger grid, Command 2, and let's see, that's a nice size grid. I can double click, put in a clip, and if I wanna make it longer, I can extend it out, but it's actually looping it. So it's actually looping this one measure over and over again. And you can tell that by the incomplete brackets. Now a useful keyboard command is highlighting clips and hitting Command J to join them. And now you can see there's an actual closed bracket there. There's a little line divider and a loop divider. So those are important to know the difference. And the other thing we can do is now use the headphone icon to turn on the auditioning. So a technique I would do, if you're not even good at keyboard, so a pretty surefire way you can find the key is just by going to the piano roll here and start with, like, say C right here and just hit it. That sounds distinctly bad. Well, maybe not bad, but tension. That's in the scale, I can tell. That's a lot of tension. Now, when you get to a lot of tension, you're probably really close to the home bass. So the home bass is actually, I think, E flat. If I just keep hitting E flat. That, what I would say, is the key center of this track. So we're going to go E flat as the root note. Now, if we know it's E flat, we can actually use a very awesome feature. If you're not familiar with music theory and scales, this will be a huge unlock for you. And that is using the scales feature built into Ableton. So if you go to scale right here, we can go to E flat and it's minor. So that's the thing. You might need to experiment with all these scale types. And it's really fun to go through these different scale types and start a new idea with a melody like this. But right now we're going to do minor. And we can use only the scale notes in the piano roll. This is the piano roll. And now, wherever I double click, the notes will go in. Now that doesn't sound good. I'm going to highlight and delete them. And let's try to think, scroll down where we want them. So, sounds like it should be pretty low. I can use shift arrow key down to go a whole octave, or arrow key to go one cell. So arrow keys just go. And let's see, the bass is definitely not going to come in at the beginning. So let's just get the bass where the drums are. So I'm going to move this clip, delete this, double click. See, that sounds already better just because it's reinforced with the kick and everything. Adjusting the sustain of a note is very important. That's the back end. The difference between this and this is very different. Yeah, that A sharp sounds really nice as the second part. Sometimes it's nice to lead to a note like this. Boom, boom, boom. And I can kind of hear it coming back up. So you can shift select both of these and change this length at the same time. And if you want to hear back from a specific part of the clip without moving the locator, you can just hover in between the loop bracket. And the main part of the piano roll is this little playback icon. Yeah, I feel like I turn around there. If you hit B on your keyboard, that's pencil mode, and that will be single click notes in. I'm going to make the grid a little bigger. All right, so now we have the bass line going into this guitar section. Let's figure out how we can get a little further into this. Select this, Command D, duplicate. Yeah, bass line sounds good with the guitar already, but I think what we can do is get rid of these layers, and we just need to highlight them. And to disable them non-destructively, we can hit 0, which disables the clip. So let's change this guitar by adding some chorus, an ensemble, a little pitch variation. The rate's gonna be how quickly the pitch fluctuates. And the other thing we can do is pan these tracks differently in our stereo image. So on the track header, you can see the C, that stands for center. If I click and drag it to the down, it's gonna go to the left and up to the right. And you can see the automation line moving. So we can kind of also automate the panning. I'm gonna zoom in here and then have this pan here on the left, then go to the right, and then back to the center. That's a cool little trick. go have it go down. So now there's a little more of like a subtle arranging where I'm gonna get rid of some variations when we go through one time and then add that little rhythmic variation when it comes to the guitar part. So now I wanna show y'all how to record in Ableton Live. We're gonna need more tracks. So I'm gonna Command T for an audio track. Shift Command T is a MIDI track. You're gonna wanna double check in your audio preferences. So that's Command comma to go to your preferences, where your audio input and output device are, to make sure that if you want to use your built-in microphone or your interface, then you can go to the audio track and arm it with this little icon. And now you can even see as I talk, my mic is feeding in. If you want to switch which inputs you have, that's the IO, the in out. So that's right there. And you can go through and switch one. I'm going to do one. So it's a mono track. And I am not a singer. So I'm going to show y'all how to record your voice for demonstration purposes only, and that is to arm the track. Once you have live signal, I'm going to hit record. And it gives a count in. As you can see, it's live. Ooh. So I can go into the waveform. There's a few things you can do. You can double click and, you know, stretch out some of the transients so make it sound really crazy. I kind of like that. To be honest, it didn't sound terrible right there. So I'm going to hit A to get out of automation mode. Duplicate that. And then here. Ooh, crack that very badly right there. But this doesn't sound bad. And you know what? What does it sound like if we stretch some of this? So double click there to add a marker, double click, double click. Maybe stretch this out right here. So obviously this is a little rough, but we can do a little sound design magic to make this sound cooler. Let's add in a little delay. So a delay can add a little mysteriousness to the... And now that the delay is in there, we can actually remove some of the middle bits because the delay will take care of it. Honestly, that sounded really nice right there. There's a little clicking, so we can fix that by using Command Option F. Like there's a little crossfade, it's a little better. The other thing we can do is let's resample this. So this is really cool. We're gonna use Command T to add in a new audio track. And now we're gonna set the input, instead of just like our microphone, we're gonna get set to resampling. That means this track's gonna record whatever Ableton's putting out. So I'm gonna solo the vocals, arm this track, and just play back from right here, record. 2, ready, resampling. And then we can even add more delay and more sound design on top of this. So let's add in a little erosion, which is kind of cool. And another, let's actually add reverb. So we'll do some reverb. Erosion is a distortion effect, so it's gonna add a lot of color to the sound. Take the amount down. And I want this other delay on this bit and then turn it off, so we can use automation to turn that delay on and off by simply clicking a point on and a point off. So it's on right here, off right there. So the last thing that I want to fix is the guitar, make it a little more subtle. We can use a filter again. And another trick is to use this bandpass filter. So this is the middle one. Here. This only lets in the frequencies in this little range here, so it's a little more subtle. And we can adjust the slope with this 12 dB or 24 dB slope. And then maybe reverse some of these. So I'm gonna hit R on reverse. Yeah, that sounds good right there. I think this is almost ready to do a little final mixed levels check, maybe some panning. So certain things need to be panned. I'll pan these guitar chords slightly off center, so at left and right here. Ableton Live Lite also supports VST, so I do hear some nice strings that I want to kind of put in myself. And in this case, I'm going to put in a plugin that we have on Splice Rent to Own. This is called Augmented Strings from V Collection. Probably my favorite feature of Ableton Live is this capture button. This is when you're playing on a MIDI keyboard. And it'll just capture anything you're playing in real time, like a little cache, if you will. And sometimes your best ideas are right before you hit record. This will actually just capture those ideas. Kind of just like an open suspended chord. It's really nice and kind of gives a texture at the top of this song. So this idea is ready to be bounced down so that you can reference it later, listen back, and try to get some more ideas to build upon it. Simply go to File, Export Audio, and you'll see some options here. I'm just gonna select WAV file and hit Export, then save an output destination. So I hope y'all found this beginner walkthrough valuable. Let me know in the comments if you have any specific questions on Ableton Live. I'll try to answer them. As always, I hope you all stay inspired, stay creative. I'll catch everyone on the next one.